welcome everybody.
Getting bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you guys are too. Okay, so these are the questions that I was curious about, and I think they'll be the questions you guys are curious about too. I'm going to ask a lot about the very early days of Facebook. We were just talking about them in the back. It was fascinating. I sort of wish you could have heard it. We'll do our best to try and reproduce it. So here's a question that might be a little bit difficult. How long before 2004 could something like Facebook have succeeded? Like, what was the last thing that was needed to fall into place? Could someone have done it in 1995 or 2000?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. There were certain elements that we certainly bootstrapped off of and kind of used to hack early identity, right? So one of the things that people don't think about that often today is early on we wanted to establish this culture of real identity on the service. And there weren't really any other online services or communities where people were openly their real self before that. And one of the ways that we kind of determined that someone was really who they said they were and their credentials were real were everyone had school email addresses. And I don't know how much before 2004, I assume, probably around 2000, all schools started issuing email addresses, but that was really this critical thing that made it so that we could get started. It was this counterintuitive thing that not many other services were using.
So school email addresses were the original source of identity.
Well, that's how we knew what school you were in.
Right, and you weren't just a sock puppet. Because you can't just get the school to keep creating new email addresses.
Yeah. So it made it so that people couldn't sign up for fake accounts, right? Because people typically only have one school account. So being able to bootstrap off of that was this really nice early thing that helped us establish this culture of real identity. And then once we got to a few million people or 10 million people where that culture was established, it was able to bootstrap into something that was much bigger that kept most of that culture, even though now, obviously, most people in the world don't have emails that are issued by some institution that vouches for their identity.
Now people log in through Facebook. Now you're the source of identity.
Well, it comes around.
Yeah.
But to your question about when would it have been possible, one of the big trends that we see is that the amount that any individual shares in a given year seems to be growing at this exponentially increasing rate. Right?
Zuckerberg's law.
Yeah, I don't call it that, but other people do.
You heard it here first.
But I mean, it is this kind of social networking version of Moore's Law, and it's interesting. And what that suggests to me is, if we expect that this rate is going to double every year, then look out 10 years. 2 to the 10th is 1024, right? So 10 years from now, people will be sharing about 1,000 times as many things.